I'm Richard Melnick. I'm a trustee with the Greater Astoria Historical Society. George Delis was one of the founding members in 1977.
We are at the Greater Astoria Historical Society. I founded this organization in October of 1978.
It was officially founded on October 1st, 1985. We've been in this building since the mid-90s, and we have gallery space here, and we do exhibits, walking tours, lectures. We have educational programs.
Nick Michalios was demolishing the Lawrence family mansion, and when I saw what he was doing, I got out of my car, I complained, blah, blah, blah. So I called a meeting to start this organization so we could save our historic sites. They've been doing a great job at it. Bob Singleton, Deborah Vancora, they've been doing a great job with the society. They have monthly meetings here, and it's been, I'm very pleased to see it continue to grow because we have a great history here in Astoria as well.
And we're very much in the mix with the community, and we have a lot of different community groups that come here and to serve the public through sharing their knowledge with the public.
We have Tony Gazzara with us. He was the senator at the time when we started the Historical Society. Very supportive, very active with us. He took the tours. He was right there for us. Tony Gazzara.
Retired judge.
He's a retired judge now.
From 1974
yes.
to 83, I served in the legislature.
Yes.
We started many things. I gave the first grant to the Astoria Studios to stop the leaks that were coming from. And also, I sponsored the bill that we started two places, one in Jersey and one in Long Island City, that would be designated for housing.
Yes.
And at that time, Mario Cuomo was Secretary of State.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Melnick. I'm a board member here with the Greater Astoria Historical Society. We're here to celebrate Astoria in the 1980s. This is our exhibit around the wall right here. We have some basic information on the first column. So afterwards, you can take a look at that. There's some nice pictures of what Astoria parts of Astoria looked like in the 1980s. The 1980s, we'll just go over a couple of historical events that many of you folks remember them. And if you look at a textbook today, we're hoping some of these items would make it into the modern textbook. AIDS was coming into play as a major scourge in our country. The internet was just developed. Ronald Reagan was president for 8 years. Global warming was on the table for the first time. Scientists were starting to talk about man's effect on the environment. The Titanic was located in 1985. The war on drugs, just say no. First of all, I'd like to say hi to Debbie here, who compiled this list for me. Cocaine was a popular drug among celebrities. Yuppies entered the scene. And crack was a scourge in the inner cities by the late 80s. John Lennon died in December of 1980. He was killed, actually. The Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986 exploded. Chernobyl happened in Russia, in the Soviet Union, in April of 1986. I was in West Germany at the time. We went on alert. We had to put on all our I was in the Army, and we had to put on our protective gear, but then they realized that the cloud was going north toward Norway and not coming west toward West Germany, which it was called at the time. And the Exxon Valdez spilled a lot of oil off the coast of Alaska in 1989. Our friend Andrew Mott is here, and he just told me that in the year 1983, it was the tricentennial of Queens County, which was established on November 1st, 1683. So in 1983, its 300th anniversary, and the Greater Astoria Historical Society had put items into a time capsule at Flushing Meadows Park. So when you come up later, you can tell us a little about that. Also, arcade and video games Well, there were already arcade games for many years before them, but the video games came forward, and Pac-Man was one of the big video games back in the 80s. Personal computers came onto the scene. VCRs and video rental stores also entered the picture. The Rubik's Cube was the scientific cube that some people are quite nifty. The Walkman and boom boxes were entered the scene in the 1980s. MTV launched, and just for those historians out there, "Video Killed the Radio Star" was the first song that MTV played. I think it was in 1982. Madonna, Michael Jackson, Prince, and Whitney Houston were the big pop stars at the time. There was heavy metal fashion, teased hair, ripped jeans, hair permed, mullets, and jerry curls. And for those spelling out there, jerry curls is J-H-E-R-I. You could win big money on the exit quiz. Also, shoulder pads were big, jean jackets, leather pants, and leg warmers, because the aerobics craze came in to play in the late 70s and full on in the 80s. So these are some nice things we've compiled. Also, 1981, the Yankees lost the World Series to the Dodgers, but in '86, the Mets redeemed New York for that decade by winning the World Series. The New York Giants won the Super Bowl in the '86 season, 1987, their first Super Bowl, and the New York Islanders out on the island won 4 straight cups from 1980 to '83.
I want to tell you, I love my job. I love working with the community board members, friends, and our politicians. Tony Gazzaro was always there, very supportive. I mean, these things were so important. They were very great years. We did things. I became district manager in '77 in August. Of that year, the Tri-Borough movie theater on Steinway complained. He says, "You know, I don't get customers here because we have to pay the meters till 10 o'clock. It's ridiculous." So I met with the traffic commissioner, DOT, and I said, "Can we reduce these meters till 7 o'clock? He said, "Yeah, why not if you wanted." Last week we're at Daisy's in Woodside, Fred and I. They were having a fundraiser for Carol Maloney. The meter was till 10 o'clock. Our meters don't go past 7. And that was one of the very first things I did. Because we had cooperation, we worked well together. Every Tuesday night, I have great entertainment at Athens Square Park. We have Greek night. I started Italian nights 19 years ago with Vinny Iannisi. I went to the Italian Federation to, let's do Italian night. And it was Jack Buccaleri, John Chiffon's uncle, I forgot his name. They were all crazy about it. Let's try it. Every Wednesday night, I would go to Italian night at Athens Square, and there was Vinny Iannisi with the mic, and you couldn't get it out of his hand. He loved it. He was a community guy, and he loved it. Our first stop was the Steinway Mansion. I went up to the Steinway Mansion. I met Mike Halberian, the owner. They had owned the Steinway Mansion since 1929. Mike loved it. And we would go to the mansion, one bus, about 30 to 40 people, and we'd go and we'd tour the mansion and the grounds, and he'd talk all about the history of the Steinways. Then we went to the Modern Art Foundry, which is right behind the Steinway Mansion. That's one of the oldest foundries where they do bronze works in the country. Those were the stables of the Steinway Mansion. That was their stables. We never developed that street, because if we developed 41st Street, we'd have to take down 40% of the Modern Art Foundry. So we didn't develop that street. That's why that street was never developed. We went to the Steinway Piano Company. Peter Perez, he was the president. A very suave guy. He wanted to move the company to North Carolina because the conditions up there were deplorable. You remember all the garbage, the dump sites, the roads were not developed. It was a disaster. So we toured the Steinway Piano Company. We went to the Lent Repellier home, 78th Street and 19th Road. It is the oldest residence in New York City today. The landmark sign says 1727, but we believe that was built earlier than that. I went up there with an archaeologist, and if you look at part of the foundation, it goes back to the 1600s. They were Dutch. They were Dutch. They were the servants of the Rikers. My office was in the Paramount movie studios, Athens Studios. They were built in 1919 by the Lasky brothers. They were Paramount. Larry Barr then, and you remember the name Larry Barr, he was the manager then. Great guy. And he welcomed the tour. And we would talk about the movie industry and what was happening and how the city was trying to bring them back. And he talked about the history of Paramount. The Lawrence family cemetery with James Sheehan. We'd go on the grounds and he'd describe who was where and what was and who was buried there. James Lawrence saved that ship, Battle of 1812. He was never found. He was lost at sea, but there's a tombstone there for him. He was part of the Lawrence family. And Chalmer Industries, Joe Russo. Chalmer Industries is the biggest liquor distributor on the East Coast. They still exist. They're on 48th Street and 19th Avenue. The first president of the society was Madeline Gillis. We asked for a calendar. We made a calendar with LaGuardia Community College, Richard Lieberman. And we worked with Vincent Safrey. We ordered this book, 300 Years of Long Island City History. Vincent Safrey wrote about, I think, 8 books on New York City history. He passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 92. A great guy. He was one of our guest speakers always at the society, and he would talk about a different aspect of the history of New York City, whether it was transportation, the construction of the Tri-Borough Bridge, or the history of Astoria. There was an old fellow who come to my office, Sam Robert, and he was one of the union officials for the screen, for the movie and television actors. I don't remember the exact logo. But he came to my office, he said, you know, George, we should do a museum here. We have all these buildings. Why don't we make a movie museum? So I put it in the budget. I was community manager, had nothing to lose. I put it in the budget. I lobbied the politicians for support, because you gotta get support from these guys, you remember, Tony. I lobbied you guys for support to fund it, and surprisingly, we got $6 million. And today you got the movie museum down the block. I picked the big building where the Sinatra School is because I felt that if this museum kicked in, they would need more room for expansion. They just paid $20 million for a tiny little expansion. They should have taken that big location. But today you got the movie museum. There was another lovely guy who used to come to the office, Dennis Delis, great guy, community guy. And he says, why don't we do an Athens Square Park? I met with Valone at Paigatos, a little restaurant on 30th Avenue, me, Dennis, and Peter Valone. This was 1986. And we sat at Paigatos and we picked Pier 17. They were handball courts, like where Athens Square is today. I put in the budget, I lobbied the mayor, I lobbied the commissioners, and today you have Athens Square Park. Great project. We are a handful of people. I remember in 1993, we unveiled Socrates. I wanted the mayor to come. Dave Dinkins was mayor. This is a very funny story. It's a true story. I wanted Dinkins to come to do the unveiling of Socrates. He wouldn't return my call. I called, I wrote letters, got nowhere. He had a meeting with the community boards in City Hall, the managers, and the chairman, and when he went to the bathroom, I went to the bathroom. And when he's trying to go to the bathroom, I'm tapping him on the shoulder. And I said, why don't you come to Athens Square? It's so important to us. We're a handful of volunteers. We're not big business. It's so important. Okay, I'll be there. And with the mayor came the publicity. That's why I wanted the mayor there. And look at what we got today, Athens Square Park. Great things, because we have a great community, and we've all worked together to that end, to make this community a great community. One of the police captains, after he was transferred from here, he went to the South Bronx, and he came to my office to see me, and he says, George, what a disappointment. There's no community where they sent me. Nobody. No politicians, no civic groups, no Joan DeQuarters to break them every time something goes wrong. It's exactly what he said to me. And he mentioned, and he talked no community whatsoever in the South Bronx. That's what makes, this is what Tony Bassanga was saying, what makes this community great is that we get involved. The civic groups, the elected officials, we all work together towards bettering this community.
Historical Society. I've been working here. We have a fabulous board. Debbie Van Kira is third generation historian. Debbie's family has been involved in Astoria for 90 years, and Debbie herself is instrumental in Bohemian Hall's revitalization. So great credit to Debbie and to people like Debbie. And I look out here in the audience and sort of remember one thing about people have always said about Astoria. It's a small community, kind of flies under the radar, but boy, oh boy, it's a lot more than what it seems when you first look at it. We have all the advantages of living next to a great city, and yet we have a fabulous small town. And we've never quite lost that civic involvement. We've never quite lost that spirit. I know sometimes I go down the East River and I take a look at Manhattan and I say, boy, we are so lucky. No other place has a fantastic suburb like Astoria, Manhattan. Anyways, I want to make one final announcement to you, and that is some of you have been following the Steinway Mansion saga. The Greater Astoria Historical Society was instrumental in forming a group called the Friends of Steinway Mansion. And you've seen, the Historical Society, I believe, was founded at the mansion. In its early years, met at the mansion, and the Mike was Sergeant-at-Arms or something like that.
It was very instrumental. We had our fundraisers there. And
we used to have the Christmas party, even before I got involved with the society, when there were the holidays and stuff. So our association with the Steinway Mansion goes back many, many decades at this point. Also, our involvement with the Steinway Piano Company goes back. Henry Z. Steinway, the late Henry Z. Steinway, who was the last president of the company, was a member of the society. As a matter of fact, we had an exhibit here, Steinway Sale Days, and Henry showed up. We have a picture of him in the gallery. He's a fabulous guy. He'd invite Debbie and myself to Steinway Hall, and we'd have dinner or lunch with him. And he'd describe many of the history of the company to us, much of the information. And so over the years, we became very, very close to Steinway and Sons. We have conducted walking tours there since the late 90s, and recently the company called us back to resume our monthly tour or weekly tours with them.
The 80s were a time period when the community groups came to the forefront and started taking charge of the destiny of the community, of the neighborhood. Why is Astoria so great today and so wonderful and busy and strong? Because at that time in the 80s, the seeds were planted for community involvement. You had many, many organizations that took charge of
Thank you very much, Tony, for coming. Okay, take care, Tony.
Andy was with us the day that we started the planning for Athens Square Park, Andy Mata. He was with Peter Vallone, who was then the councilman, at Taigetos, a little restaurant on 30th Avenue near Cali's Real Estate. Andy was there, and Vallone, he says, I love this idea, and he takes out a check and gives us a $100 check to start the account for Athens Square Park.
So we did a lot of things.
We did a lot of good things here.
So we have a lot of nice events coming up. We've done, I think we have, in the calendar year of 2015, we'll have upwards of 50 different events that we'll be doing as a historical society. Almost every week we have something going on, led by a different board member. So we're quite a dynamic group. And our website is www.astorialic.org, the Greater Astoria Historical Society, and we thank you for coming tonight. Good night.
Thank you. We were community people. We did things because we believed in this community.